Steve Moran here with another episode of Foresight TV. Today I am talking to Joe Jasmon, who leads American Healthcare Management Group. I get it mostly right?
Absolutely. You got it right.
Awesome. Terrific. And we are going to be talking about the middle market today. First thing I need to do is run our intro, though, and then we will jump right into it. Hey guys, Steve Moran here. Joe, welcome. First thing I need to do is I need to do a little bit of housekeeping with you, with us. This particular episode is brought to you by the Senior Living Executive Conference, the official meeting of Argentum. If you mention the promo code Foresight, you will get $100 off. And who can't use an extra $100, right? So. Yep. That's just a couple weeks away. I am actually really looking forward to it. I'd love to be able to connect. Maybe we can do some video together. Maybe you can give me some great stories about what you're doing. So I hope to see you there. We're going to have, I think, 3 of us there this year. So looking forward to that. Joe, welcome.
Welcome. Glad to be here. Wonderful day.
So what? And you're actually on the road as well, so you're doing that. And let's talk a little bit about who you are, kind of your background, and then I'd actually like to have you talk a little bit about sort of your passion for the middle market.
Certainly. So Joe Jasmon, I'm the CEO of American Healthcare Management Group. We've been involved in healthcare proper, doctors and hospitals, senior living, and mental and behavioral health for the past 30 plus years. Done a lot of work in the senior space. And have actually been part and parcel of 3 different brands. Our newest brand that we're putting together is focused directly on the middle market. It's called Elevate Senior Living. It's a concept that we've put together from the ground up to address that sort of middle market component, 14 to 16 million seniors, depending on the research you look at, they really can't afford what's currently out there. And felt that it was important for us to design a product from the ground up that really fit that market rather than trying to retrofit something else or trying to renovate a hotel and all of those things, but really designing it to fit the needs of, first and foremost, that human being, but secondly, in an affordable way. And if you're just doing something with an existing building, you're not really addressing the major problems of doing it in an affordable way, and that's cost. So that's kind of a key component. And so go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're using an existing building, you've still got this whole floor plan footprint you've got to support in terms of everything from mortgage to utilities to staffing to cleaning to everything, right?
Exactly. So what we see is that we put together a group that in a sense formed Elevate Senior Living. It's my company. It's a company called Spellman Brady. We're co-founders. They're an interior design firm. Arco is our general contractor. HKS is our architect. Centrix is our technology partner. Sage Age is our marketing partner. We have American Millwork partner. We also have Stefan's Accounting, as well as MMA Insurance. And all of those folks are actually partners, literally written a check to become equity partners. And we designed this with all of that knowledge of all the buildings that we've all been involved in and built in the past to say, let's not do it that way, but let's think of it differently. And so we started out literally, Bruce Pensions and I met over a burger and a beer at Leading Age, Florida, and sketched something out on a napkin, got in their studio in St. Louis at Spellman Brady and crafted this thing that we thought made sense. And I had in my head, it can't be any more than 50,000 square feet. We got close. So our model is currently 55,300 square feet for 96-bed AL memory care. But what we found in the uniqueness is that if you were to build that the traditional way, which we've all done, that building would be 85,000 to 110,000 square feet. So we've already shrunk the footprint. So we're building it for less. Utilities will be less, but we didn't sacrifice a single amenity. We just got really smart about what we didn't need. So if you look at most traditional senior living communities, they have giant dining rooms. And those dining rooms are used 3 hours of the day and then they're shut down. So we don't have giant dining rooms. We have 6 neighborhoods in our building. Each neighborhood has 16 private rooms. So everybody's got a private room. No one's getting stacked up. We're not playing that game. But every neighborhood is themed. And in that neighborhood, let's just say in your traditional senior living community, you have a theater room. We have a theater neighborhood. So the residents sleep in their rooms. They have the ability to eat in their neighborhood. They can do activities in their neighborhood, or they can go to any of the other neighborhoods in addition. So that's freedom of dining. We still have a commercial kitchen and we still have a nice restaurant. So that gives them yet another option for dinner to eat at home, go to their neighbor's house, figuratively get dressed up and come to dinner. But the real kicker for us utilizing our technology partner is they can order lunch, breakfast, or dinner anywhere they want. They just either have to tell their TV or the concierge, and they can have dinner on the patio if they want. And that's not only does that give them the freedom that they need, believe it or not, it makes things less expensive because we now know before every meal exactly who's eating what and when, with a few exceptions if they come to the restaurant and order off the menu. So our waste goes down about 75%. And most people would look at that as, well, wow, if you're going to give them that freedom, it's going to cost more. It actually doesn't. And that's kind of a unique part, a unique twist. And I'd love to say that we had that idea that we were going to save money on that right up front, but that was just a happy win for saying, oh,
Yeah.
look, we'll take it.
So as you're describing this, so one of the things that occurs to me is it sounds a little bit like you really, if you're going to be serving meals in all these different neighborhoods, it sounds like you're actually increasing your staffing burden over what a traditional senior living community.
Yeah, it's a very good question, but as a matter of fact, we're not. So the way that the community is designed in the 6 neighborhood model, traditionally, every senior living community usually has 7 leaders. Each one of our leaders, with the exception of the director in sales and marketing, because they should be out in the field marketing, will be responsible for a neighborhood. And that's sort of top to bottom, making sure that everything gets done. Then we staff that with normal care staff, but we'll use the universal care worker concept and still have the same number of people in the kitchen. So we're prepping our food in the kitchen, finishing it in the neighborhoods, because we do have a full kitchen in the neighborhoods with, two wall ovens. We don't have surface top like a stove top because that would require a hood, which would cost more, but we'll do induction cooking to heat up things. And then the staff and then the staff and the residents, if they choose, can get involved in the meal prep and finishing. The additional twist, or I guess the secret sauce for us, is in our building every day, we'll have 10 volunteers 7 days a week on first and second shift and a fewer number on third shift that will be also helping out with those things. And the only way that works is Elevate in every market that we're in has to become part of that local community. And so our first community is going to open in Clearwater here in July. And we've already partnered with 3 key not-for-profits and several churches that have committed volunteers to work with us. One being Tampa Bay Feeds, who's committed chefs to come in and help cook, as well as other people in the kitchen. Eckert Cares or Eckert Connects has committed to allow they train CNAs, they train cooks, and they train housekeepers to let us have them do their clinical work and volunteer in our community. And then Neighborly Cares, which does transportation and Meals on Wheels for seniors, that will actually provide us transportation and volunteers as well into our community. And honestly, we've just started to scratch the surface of the relationships we're building with them.
Oh man, I got to tell you, I love this so much. I don't know whether you saw it, but there was an article, I think either this week or last week, in the Wall Street Journal about how the fastest growing group of new workers into the marketplace right now are older workers. And what companies are finding is that older workers, I mean, the bottom line is they're finding that older workers have better work ethics, right? They show up on time, they work hard, they work their whole shift, they don't complain. And I've long felt that one of the missed opportunities, and I don't know whether you're doing this or not. It's always dangerous when I start asking questions where I don't know the answers, right? But one of the things I've often felt was that there's a huge missed opportunity to actually have people who live in the community either work as volunteers or as paid staff in the community. I mean, there are things they can't do, right? But front desk, as a for instance, maybe even help with some of the sales and marketing. I don't know. You have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love the concept. I've been talking with a group probably for the last 2 years that is trying to create a senior living community around like a small farm concept. And the way that you would gate entry, it's also a mid-market concept, is by providing a certain number of hours in a sense every week. And so I love the idea. What we're trying to do at Elevate is in addition to our assisted living memory care, we have in Clearwater, we have 16 independent living 2-bedroom apartments. They're in duplexes. And currently, all of those are pre-leased, which is fantastic. But the people living there, we've already started to tap into becoming part of running the activities of the social program for the independent living, crossing over into assisting with the concierge, like you said, at the front desk, in the main clubhouse for the assisted living memory care, running the bridge club, creating a garden club to do, in a sense, to do the flowers. So it's really the best way to make it work is to finding things that they're passionate about and then just giving them that opportunity to do it. I do think that part of our volunteer recruitment will probably focus significantly on the older population because they're reliable, they'll passion in it, and they have time. And honestly, to believe it or not, they're not on their phones either all the time. So
That's right. That's right.
that part.
Well, and the other thing I guess I'm thinking is that family members could be a great source of volunteers. I know that already happens in some communities, but they've got a vested interest in helping care for mom, and they're in the community. They know the community. They're looking for your success, and so I really like that a lot. What about programming? I think about this and sort of my head explodes just on the surface, thinking about having to program for 7 neighborhoods and in a 96 unit building.
Uniquely a little bit easier than trying to figure out one activity for an entire building that everybody is going to like is because of the neighborhoods are themed. So we have theater neighborhood, we have a bar neighborhood, literally, happy hour, wine and cheese, whatever. We have a coffee shop neighborhood. We have an arts and crafts neighborhood. We have a library neighborhood. Each of those neighborhoods will have things going on in them all the time that are based on those themes. And then we'll have group events that are planned around really what the residents in that particular community want and do. So as I tell when I'm talking to the prospective residents, the activities that we have in place in the first 2 weeks will drastically change after that because you will tell us we don't want to do that and we're going to change it from there. And so utilizing the life engagement managers, and then remember each one of our leaders is responsible for a neighborhood and their knowledge of what the 16 residents want to do in that neighborhood, they're creating the activity program each and every day for them. In addition to that, we bring in, you mentioned family members, we have formalized the Family Booster Club program and a family support group program, and they take charge. We give them not only a small budget, but the charge of re-enhancing and updating the activities throughout the community. A lot of times they'll handle the evening activity and the weekend activities. But more importantly, by utilizing them in that volunteer workforce, we're very big on one-on-one activities and making sure that every one of our residents has the opportunity to have a one-on-one activity at least once a week, if not more often. And that's very beneficial, specifically in the memory care space, but also sometimes in the assisted living space, the folks need help. And a lot of times it's not so much that they need help with, med management or something. They're just lonely. And that gives us an opportunity to create that relationship, do the one-on-ones, and then bring them in slowly into the group if they're not quite ready for that. And, a lot of folks we say and I hear it all the time. My mother, 85, she says this all the time. Well, they don't want me to come because they didn't invite me. That's our, in a sense, formal invitation method to say, well, you know what? we are inviting you today, so let's go over, and maybe we'll just sit on the outside and watch, but then we'll get involved. And we see all the time is then residents will step up to the plate and say, hey, I'd like to do this. And my favorite activity that I didn't have anything to do with was one of our residents was a Spanish teacher and asked if he could teach Spanish. And that went from one activity a week to 3 times a week. And it was the busiest one that we could do. And it was fantastic. I didn't have to do anything. And those to me are the perfect ones.
Well, what I like about this is I think this is a place where life enrichment often misses the boat, right? There's this sort of need to do these big activities. And I think there's a place for big activities. I think that you have these big celebrations. But when I think about my day-to-day, week-to-week, even when I go to a conference, right? I mean, I'll be at a Senior Living Innovation Forum in Austin in a couple of weeks, and then at Leading Age, California for a day, and then back to New Orleans for Argentum for the Senior Living Executive Conference. And I love the big gatherings, but more for me, and I think for most people, being able to sit and have a conversation with you, having a drink and just say what's going on in your life, what are you working on, what are you passionate about, is more meaningful. And I think the data shows that's true for most people. And yet mostly we program for these big events, which actually is hard for most people.
It is. And there's certain things that we do every day like clockwork that are in a sense like sort of that big gathering. So we call it the Elevate Revelry. So we start the day with a prayer, a devotional, the national anthem, the Pledge of Allegiance. What are we grateful for? Current events, what do you want to talk about type of a series. It gets the dialogue going, and then we roll into trivia. Then we do a little music, a little bit of exercise of some kind, and then they break off into the smaller groups. What happens organically throughout that process is then I have identified the smaller groups and we can go focus on them. But immediately after dinner, that group organically has formed back into the main room or whatever the room is, and they're just having conversation. And like you said, that's my favorite time of the day to be in the communities, because I just sit down with them and have a conversation and talk and laugh and share stories, or they'll ask me questions about my kids or what have you, and I'll ask them about theirs. And that in and of itself is probably a better activity than something that they're just present for and not engaged in. So I love the idea of making those things happen on their own as well and allowing them to happen.
Yeah. And I just think about when you and I got on before we started the show, right? We talked about we talked about the weather, and we talked about where you are because you're not at home, and what you're doing, and it was family, and it was just we were talking about life, right? And that's really powerful, good stuff. I actually want to circle back for a minute. Sure. I should have asked you this earlier, I think. In terms of rent rates that you're charging, how much are you saving?
We're on the average $1,000 a month less in each category than the top 4 or 5 in each market. And so if a standard assisted living rate is around $5,000 a month, we're at $4,000. Standard memory care rate is around $6,000 a month, we're at $5,000. Each market's a little bit different. In Clearwater, the price points are $2,500 for a 2-bedroom independent living per month, $4,100 for assisted living, and $4,500 for memory care. All inclusive.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and I look at that. I mean, I'm when I hit retirement age, when I hit Social Security, I don't know if I'm going to hit retirement age, or when I hit full eligibility for Social Security, or maximum eligibility for Social Security, I'll get a little over $3,000 a month. My wife will get a little over $3,000 a month. So I could go move in. We could go come move into one of your 2-bedroom independent living and pay all our bills and have lots of money left over. And that's a good deal.
Yeah. And it'd be a shame if I didn't use this opportunity to say, because Nick would want me to, we can get you on the waiting list right now. It's just a $500 check, and we'll hold that apartment for you for sure.
Yeah, I'm probably not quite ready to do that. But if you were in Sacramento here, maybe I don't know. I think I'm probably not quite ready to move out of my. I'm not sure I'm quite ready to move out of my house, and I don't know how you'd like it having two big yellow labs, one 100 pounds and the other one 60 pounds wandering around the community. So
we have a dog park right outside a whole section of the
is that
depot.
right?
Perfect for them.
Yeah. Perfect. That sounds good. So I think the heat might be a problem for my wife. I could probably the heat would work for me. So how many of these do you have planned? What's the lesson the industry should learn here?
We have, as I said, Clearwater is opening in July. Olathe, Kansas is in permitting right now. Lebanon, Ohio is number 3. And then we have 9 more in the pipeline throughout. Pretty much we're looking Midwest. The furthest northeast we're going is Maryland. Midwest, Southeast, and Texas at the moment is kind of where we're focused. I think from an industry standpoint is learning how to do all the things that we want to do for our residents, but doing it in a smaller footprint, and actually chucking some of the old-fashioned ways that we've done things and really looking at planning your community around what your residents want and actually use versus what you want or you think they want. And so spend a little time talking to seniors about their lifestyle versus assuming we just have to do everything that everyone else is doing. And so I think for the longest time, everyone's just trying to be like the Joneses and, oh, they have it, so I have to have it. And our answer is, no, you don't. What you really need to have is what your residents are asking for. And to me, it's summed up in a simple word, and that's just freedom. And so you heard me say this, and I say it again, is I don't want to tell my residents that they're going to sit at this one chair and eat every meal they're going to have at a time I designed for them for the rest of their life. No. I don't ever want to do that. And I also don't want to tell them that they have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and get out of bed and go sit and do nothing. I want to say, when do you want to get up? And if you want to get up at 9 o'clock, fantastic. If you want to get up at 8, 7, it doesn't matter. But that's what we've done to our seniors in these communities. We've forced them into a mold that we want because it's convenient for us versus making it convenient for, believe it or not, our customers, which is kind of business 101. And I think that we all have to learn that lesson because we've all done it. Guilty as charged. I have communities that we manage that have done that. And so it's not a shame on you, I'm better off. We need to realize that's what our people want. And I learned that, honest to goodness, from my mother, who we took on a secret shop out in Carson City, Nevada, a couple years ago. And she said, I would never live here. And I said, "What, Mom, why?" It was a beautiful place. She goes, they won't let me do what I want to do. They're telling me what I have to do. And what if I don't want to eat dinner at 5:30? Because sometimes she wants to have dinner at 7:30 because she's not hungry. They're like, well, we'll warm something up. She goes, I'm paying $6,000 a month. That's not good enough. And so if we listen to our customers, we would form and develop, but I believe in build different senior living communities. And that to me is what's missing, is the model has to fundamentally change. And we believe, based upon what we're putting on the table, and we invite everyone else to join us, there's no secrets here, is that we can do it for less money and we can still make the same margins that you're making out there. It's just figuring out the best way to do that in each of the markets.
Well, I just, you are so preaching my song. I know that's a mixed metaphor, but I just, one of the things that drives me, that I have written about, I believe in, is that I think that breakfast, as done in most senior living communities, is ridiculous.
Agreed.
I get, I'll tell you what I did this morning is I got up. Well, I got up at 6 o'clock because the dogs had to be fed, and then I went back to bed. And then when I got up for me, I got up and I went and made myself a cup of coffee, and I had a cup of grapefruit, and I was in gym shorts and a t-shirt. And then I sat down and I did a little bit of work. And yet, for senior living, you've got to get up and you've got to get dressed. For guys, it's not as big a problem as for women. For women, you got to get dressed and you get your hair. And I don't I have a perfect head. I don't have any hair on it, and so I don't have to worry about that hair thing. And I've thought that for so long that you take, and you can do this, and probably couldn't do it in memory care, but certainly in assisted living and independent living, you put a refrigerator, a microwave, and a toaster in somebody's unit and stock it with their favorite breakfast foods, and they can do it like they did it in a coffee maker, a Keurig, and they can do it like they did it at home whenever they want. And I just think it would set up the stage for the whole rest of the day to be completely different, and it would save the community money. And yet we just don't, we always, like you said, we've been doing it the same old way that everybody, and we do it because somebody else did it that way, when we should say, wait a minute, what really works? If I walked into if I would guarantee that if you were willing to have the courage in most communities, not for you, Joe, because you've already done this, and walk into your community and say, how much of this space, how much of the things we do don't really count for anything? What if we shrunk our lobby in half? What if we shrunk our dining room in half? What impact would that really have on the lives of residents? What could I do with those resources to reprogram that or reduce costs? And that's really what you've done, and it's amazing.
Yeah, you'll find that you don't need all of that space because you don't use it. The unique part of the concept that we're talking about in Elevate is exactly what we described for breakfast. So they get up, they get dressed however they want. They walk out of their room into their kitchen living room combo, just like we have at home. They can, as I say, my mom has a yogurt, a cup of coffee, and a piece of toast. She doesn't need scrambled eggs and sausage and bacon and pancakes every morning. She doesn't want them. They can do that. They go to the fridge. There's a fridge there that has their stuff in it, that we'll keep stock based upon the 16 people in that area. They can do the same thing for lunch if they want, or they can have it formalized. But they have that freedom. And then guess what? Like you said, if they want to go back to bed, then go on back to bed. And then, let us know where you want to go. And we'll put reminders on your TV if you want to do something. It changes the dynamic. And it really, we all laughed as we were going through the process. This isn't rocket science. We just had to change and take the old hat we had on and put a different hat on. It's like, Nick tells me a lot because my oldest son works in the company. He's like, take off your boss hat, put on your dad hat, and let's talk about something. And it's like, we had to do that. We almost had to take off our senior living hat and put on our son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter hat, and then listen and hear the stories of what everybody went through. Because most people in our group of Elevate, and this is all across the country, we've all been through it or are going through it with our parents. And so let's do that and let's listen. And as we did that to one another, that's what changes the dynamic. And so I challenge everyone in senior living is get out of the boardroom and the conference room or whatever, and go sit around your kitchen table and have a conversation about mom or grandma or dad or grandpa. And that's where you will be able to change your mindset and people can actually see what happens. And the other piece for us, and I think it's kind of important, is we are not and have not and will not build a giant corporate monster that we have to feed. And we will not push corporate money down into the community or corporate expenses down into the community, because it will never work. And time again, and we do a ton of turnaround, is the main thing we see is the communities cannot survive because they can't afford the burden of the corporate monster and allocation this and regional that and all of those types of things. And so if you want to be in the mid-market space, you got to get rid of the wood paneled elevators and the giant 10,000 square foot offices and all the ego stuff, and really focus on the customer. And we believe that by doing that, we're better off as a company. Our team members are better off because they can live anywhere they want. I don't have any relocation costs ever. And that we then focus all of our efforts on meeting together in our communities rather than in some boardroom somewhere else. And yes, we do quarterly have some fun places to go to, but it's a very different concept that is really tough for people to embrace.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a big believer in the virtual. We don't have, I work out of my house. I've got a team member in Seattle, actually two in Arizona, one in Pittsburgh, one in Mississippi, and it works fine. And we gather We gather at conferences a lot. We gathered last summer in Las Vegas. We'll do that likely again this year. And it saves so much money. And ultimately, people are happier because they get to work out of their homes and they get to set their own schedule. And it's really, and I think for so much of it is just sending the message, I trust you.
Yeah, 100%. And we talk more that we're virtual than we would if we were in an office.
Yep.
We talk regularly. People have no problem picking up the phone and, hey, give me 5 minutes. Let's solve a problem. I see my team working without me, which is wonderful, doing things together, getting problems solved. It's so much more efficient because there isn't that need to go hang out somewhere. They get to what they're doing because, as you said, we trust them to do their work. The ability that they have, that flexibility, allows them to do the stuff they need to do as long as they get their work done. We're happy about it.
You bet. Well, I mean, I was telling you before we came on, right? I had about 10 minutes. And so I went out to the backyard and tossed balls with the dogs, right? And you can't do that if you're in an office. And yet, getting outside and hanging out with the dogs is just, is all about quality of life. So I guess that's what it really comes down to. And why I love your story so much is that what you're really, really talking about here is creating a good quality of life for residents and for the people who are working as part of your organization.
Absolutely.
So that's really cool. So, Joe, we are about out of time. Any last words? Also, Jada's going to put it in the back. Who want to say thanks to Jada, who's producing in the background. You never get to see her, but this is where you can find Joe on LinkedIn. And any last words of wisdom?
No, I just think that everyone that's in the senior living industry, please take 5 minutes and just embrace that middle market and embrace that it should be all about the senior.
Yep. Perfect. Thank you very, very much. I will have a great weekend. I just want to say to all of you who are watching, thank you for making a difference in the lives of older people and your team members. And it really does make a difference in the world. And we will be back next week.